Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. Oh, they all heard that. Yeah, Huck's in the house, huh? That's Huck Elberry, executive producer, and the one that cracks the whip around here, getting things done, keeping Dave in line. Oh, yeah. Oh, you just woke up everybody. They know you're here. They know you're here. Yeah, I know. They know you're here. Yeah, you tell them. Ain't you a good girl? Yeah, you're a good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. You tell them. You go, that's mine, huh? This is my show. This is Huck's show. Say it's Huck's TV, right? Oh, I know why she's mad. I just figured it out. I haven't showed this in a while. It's her show, Huck TV. She's giving me that look on, yeah, you better show that. All right. I got some big announcements today. So sit down, grab your croissant, have your cup of joe, tea, whatever you got. Hold on. So, finalizing plans right now. March 21st, 2026 will be the premiere of Missing 411 National Parks. Yes, we've got the premiere date. We're working on the location right now. And could be any one of numerous places that we're looking at, but guaranteed March 21st. So as I promised, the first quarter of 2026, we are going to deliver. Hopefully that'll squelch any bad rumors going on. But it's been a very, very busy late 2026 for the team. They have been working like mad dogs trying to get things done. So I appreciate that from them. Remember, American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Legend, still playing. You can watch it, Amazon or iTunes. And the rest of my 3 movies, Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, and Missing 411 The UFO Connection, watch it on Tubi right now. What else could I tell you? Missing411.com, the new website, is where you can get the books, DVDs, Blu-rays, maps, etc. All right, today I've got one case, very strange, very strange. I don't talk a lot about Vermont. Vermont has some really strange features about that state. And we're going to talk about a lake in Vermont that has a lot of strange things going on with it, Lake Champlain. And the case involves a man named Sean Hawley, 25, disappeared May 9th, 2015 at 11 p.m. at night. U.S. Navy veteran, raised in Florida, big swimmer, outdoorsman, recently released by the Navy and came home. He had prior addresses in Guam, Lakeland, Florida, and Arlington, Vermont. He lived in Manchester, Vermont. Now, he was last seen at a point right near Colchester, Vermont, that evening at about 11 o'clock, because there were some friends. They saw him getting into a black inflatable kayak and going out onto Lake Champlain. He put some supplies in the kayak, and he gave one of his friends his truck keys, saying, "I won't need this anymore. I want to live a life without worries." They said, "Hey, hold on, let's talk about this." He goes, "No, I made my decision. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna go live out in the boondocks and just have no worries anymore." Well, the weather the night he left had waves at 1 to 2 feet on the lake and winds at 9 to 12 knots. The Coast Guard later said that those are not abnormal conditions for kayaking. They didn't see any reason why it would be dangerous for him to go out. He was a good swimmer. In fact, he was a former Navy diver. So, pretty comfortable man on the water, I would say. Well, later that night and the following days, a storm moved in, and his friends had called the U.S. Coast Guard. The Coast Guard has a station on the lake with boats attached. And the Coast Guard said that because of the bad weather right after that they couldn't get to that location until 4:30 p.m. on March 10th, the following day. Well, they went to that area because he left in a northwest direction. But the closest place to where he took off from was a place called Stave Island. So here's Colchester, Vermont. This is Stave Island. The distance from the park to the island is about 2 miles. This is the New York-Vermont border. This is South Burlington right here. Coast Guard boat is located in Burlington. This is Winooski. The Winooski River is right here. Keep that in mind. So his friends call the sheriff, and they're worried about him. They didn't think he was going to kill himself, but they were just worried about him. Well, Stave Island, that closest place, has 2 homes on it. The island itself is about a half-mile long. So the Coast Guard gets there that following afternoon and they search around that area. They find nothing. Sean's mother later made a statement that Sean had struggled with his transition from the Navy to civilian life, as many veterans do. Days after the disappearance, the search and rescue was hampered by fog, thunderstorms, and it was constantly cloudy. The Vermont State Police, the Colchester Police, were searching that island, Stave Island, and they found a campsite on it that had been used that they ID'd successfully as belonging to Sean's. Well, now that's big. That tells you quite a few things. Number one, he made it across the lake safely. They also found his kayak pulled up on a beach and tied up so he didn't want it to go away. Now, the island's not huge. I'll show you the map again. It's about a half mile at the length, at the longest distance, north to south. So they get on there, they search it, and they don't find him. And they're perplexed because initially they thought there was another skiff that had been taken off the island and they suspected that he might have taken it, but that was wrong. They later went back and checked and they found that the skiff was never there. Well, days later, they find a blue commercial type inner tube, the type you'd pull behind a boat when somebody would ride in it. It was found near the Winooski River, and the U.S. Coast Guard got it, and on the side it said Stave Island. For some reason, they wanted to attribute this to Sean. Nobody like Sean took it, but nobody ever explained why they thought he took it or how they could attribute it to him. Now, at the time he was on that island, there was only 2 homes there. Both of them were locked up. The New York State Police later said that they believe Sean was a person of interest in a burglary of one of those homes. They never explained why. My educated guess? They must have found things at the campsite that belonged in one of those homes. That's my guess. I don't know. Purely conjecture on my part. And the state police reiterated that they just wanted to talk to Sean. They didn't want to arrest him. They were concerned for his welfare. They just want to make sure everything's going to be okay. Well, the state police spokesman stated that they went back there 3 and 4 times, searched it thoroughly, and they could never find him. On June 23rd, 2015, the Colchester police contacted family, and they got DNA, and they established a NABS case on it. On May 14th, the search and rescue was suspended. Colchester police says that they still have an active missing person case on Sean. Nobody's ever reported seeing him in Colchester since he disappeared. Family and friends hadn't heard from him. He was an excellent swimmer. Where did he go? What happened? Well, so first of all, this is the missing person poster that went out on Sean. He's about 6 foot, 6'1", 185, 190 pounds. I actually had done a fair bit of research on Lake Champlain years ago. I'll give you what I know about it. It's kind of interesting. So the Native Americans, the Abenakis and the Iroquois, lived on and around Lake Champlain. They believed in their writings that a large horned serpent or giant snake lived in the lake, and they called it Gidaskog. Early in the 18th century, the Abenakis actually warned French explorers to not disturb the lake waters, as it would disturb the serpent. Now, the lake was named after a man, an explorer named Samuel de Champlain. In some literature, it's stated that he was the first European to see it. Not entirely true, but very close to the lake, along the St. Lawrence River, he wrote in his writings that he saw an 8 to 10 foot long serpent with a head as large as 2 fists, a snout that was 2 feet long, with silver and gray scales. Now today, the serpent in the lake is called Champ. Let me give you some chronological history on this. July 24th, 1819, a Captain Crum was on a scow, reported in the Pittsburgh Republican newspaper that he saw a black monster 187 feet long, a head resembling a seahorse. He said it reared 15 feet out of the water, and it had a belt around its neck that was red in color with a star on its forehead. That's quite a description. Now, hold your taters for a second. I got one for you. When I was in Hoopa, there's a series of Native American tribes that live around there. And in some of the local libraries, I would go there to read what people had put together in folders about the heritage, lifestyle, myths, and legends associated. One myth, if you call it that went along with each one of these tribes is they lived along the Klamath River. The Klamath River dumps directly into the Pacific Ocean. Over the last 150, 200 years, there had been numerous sightings of a serpent very similar to what Champlain had reported. They said it was snake-like, It had a head like a horse that came out of the water. Now, this is something that was built along Lake Champlain to represent Champ. I find that very interesting. It's interesting because the descriptions coming out of Champlain and the descriptions coming out thousands of miles away in Hoopa and the Klamath River, very similar. And that's why I don't discount it. 1873, a Clinton County sheriff reported he saw a serpent 25 to 35 feet long. And at that time, P.T. Barnum was reading about these sightings. And he offered a $50,000 reward to anyone that could capture it, and he would buy it for a show. 1945, passengers on the SS Ticonderoga, which was crossing the lake, said they saw the serpent. In 1992, there were a total of, in a historical perspective, 180 sightings of 6 by 600 people. Now, in 2003, the Discovery Channel did a special calling it America's Loch Ness Monster. Now, some of you may say, well, Dave, that many sightings, how come it's never been found? How come it never washed up on a beach? Well, that's a very good question, Ollie. And I have a very good answer. Have you watched that movie, American Sasquatch? Well, I hope you have. Because remember in there I talked a lengthy bit about multidimensional properties and how top scientists in the world believe that living in multi-dimensions is an extreme possibility. And that many of the top scientists in the world believe there are 10 to 11 different dimensions that run parallel to us. So why couldn't a creature go from one dimension to another? As has been witnessed in the movie, and the witnesses talk about it. I don't think it's out of the realm of feasibility. And it would explain a lot of questions about why there's no body, how can they escape so quickly, how can some people see him 1 year but they don't see him for 5 or 6 years, etc. Now remember, there's certain lakes in the world that have this notoriety, having these type of monsters, but not all. I think Champlain is unique. So, again, the name of the missing person, Sean Hawley, Hawley. He's missing about 10 years. Family and friends would like you to find him. Remember that face. A couple of days ago, Harvey Pratt was put to rest. It was quite an affair. They had 2 days of ceremonies because he was a chief. The first was an open casket, which is Native American protocol. And then the second day was a private Christian Catholic ceremony. And then there was a meal afterwards for everyone who attended. Quite an affair for a man that I've stated before is a legend. A few years ago, I saw this write-up. I'm going to read it to you. In 100 years, in 2025, we will be all buried with our friends and relatives. Strangers are going to be living in our homes. Ones that we struggled to pay off, fix, make into our castle. And other people are going to own our possessions that we have today. The ones we truly admire, others may not find value in at all. Our descendants, they will hardly know who we are. How many of us today know our grandfather's father's name? I was pretty lucky. I actually met that man when I was very young. I'll never forget him. His name was Dedya. He's from Russia. Didn't speak English. I'll never forget him. After our death, we'll be remembered for a few years. And a few years later, our memories will end up in oblivion. We won't even be memories after 10 years. Probably. Now, why am I reading this? Because I thought about it with Harvey's passing. Maybe if we stop to analyze these life issues, we'd understand how weak the dream of obtaining everything was. I remember Harvey laying in bed, Christmas Day, and the countless great paintings he did. I probably saw 100 of them. But there's hundreds more I never saw. Now those paintings may cause some to think of them. I have 3 in my house. Every day I look at them. Every day I think of Harvey. Now, always having more and more without having the time for the things that are really worthwhile in our life, is that really the objective? Is that really the goal? Because as Harvey was laying there in his last few days on earth, all those things he had, what did it all mean? I've been in Harvey's home, I don't even know how many times, many. And it was like a museum. So many people had given him things from all around the world, and he had a lot of them on his walls. It was amazing. I could go in and walk around and just stare at things for hours. I think it kind of allowed him to think about some of the good moments he had in life at these different events, meeting different people, them appreciating him. You know, personally, I'd change all of this if I had the ability to say things to certain people in my life. There's only one time in my life that I can actually say that somebody passed on. And I knew that I had done the right thing the last time I'd seen him. There's only one time in my life, and that was with Harvey. And the question I asked myself is, why did it take me all these years to gain the wisdom and the strength to sit with somebody when I knew his last hours were near, hold his hand and tell him everything I thought? The last 3 years have been hell for me. My son passed away. Scott Carpenter, I saw him 1 week. The next week he passed away. Alan Adadero. Last time I talked to him, he said, hey, I went through the throat surgery. I think I'm going to be fine. He passed away soon after that. We all have people out there that you're driving home and you think, hey, I should talk to this person. For me, in the last 6 months, it was Harvey. We talked all the time. I'd be coming home from somewhere and I'd have an idea and I'd call Harvey. There were other times I called Scott. All the time. Other times, I called Ben. I called Ben all the time. Here's the bad feelings. The other day I'm driving home. I think I gotta call Harvey. And then the little man in my head goes, hey, you nitwit, you passed on. I had those same thoughts and feelings about Scott, about Alan, and about Ben. How do we get to that point of seeing the importance and having the strength to sit down with that best friend? And before they get to that point of passing on, maybe they're in great health right now. How do we get to that point of feeling comfortable enough to just tell them how much you love them? I know some guys would say, oh, guys don't do that, or, I'm never going to do that. You want to know something? I could say almost every time Harvey and I get off the phone, hey, I love you, brother. Be safe. Hey, brother, I love you. You take care. All the time. Same with Ben. Same with Alan. Same with Scott. So, if I can gain anything and help you out with something, I would ask you to look inside your heart and think about that best friend you have. Say to yourself, well, if they weren't here tomorrow, would I be okay with that? Would they know how I thought about them? Probably the strangest thing about Harvey and my relationship is, as much as we did together, as much time as we spent together, I swear to you, I don't think we ever had an argument. We never did. So it was easy to, it was like a friendship made in heaven. So I feel blessed. Very blessed. But I'm getting low on best friends. Too many of my buddies have gone. No more. I consider you a friend, and I thank you for being here. Between all of us villagers, we have a lot of wisdom amongst us. And we have strength. Find your strength. Work off your wisdom. And talk to that friend or relative that you want them to know what you really think of them. That would be one of the greatest acts of kindness you could do. Paulides out.